Welcome to the Black on the Block podcast, where we're all about preserving the black family. Everything is pro-black, but don't get it twisted. We respect everyone, but we love our people first.
What up, y'all? This is your soul sister, Kae Maree, and we are Black on the Block.
This your favorite guy, Coach Scrap, and you listen to Black on the Block podcast.
This is your humble servant, Pops, and you are listening to Black on the Block.
Hey, y'all. This your girl, Neka B. Welcome to Black on the Block.
Say, open the door, let me in. Teach a song, preach a sin. Turn the cheek, let it slide. Give 5 on the black hand side.
What's up? You kicking the words one more time on Black on the Block. Is your favorite guy, Coach Scrap. I'm only 1/4 of the thing to make this thing go through. I'm with my girl, Kae Maree, Neka B, and the humble servant, Pops. What's going on, y'all?
Hey.
Good morning.
So listen, I got to get right into it. Kendrick Lamar. Now, this is my thing. It's been a lot of swaying back and forth with different people, how they feel about him and the halftime show. I will say this, Kae Maree. I was fooling with him, Kae Maree. I know I didn't had a lot of bad reports about that man in the last couple of weeks, but I was fooling with him. It's the only part I'm gonna say though. It's the only takeaway. 2 takeaways. Didn't like the jeans at all. They pissed me off. I ain't like that flare out at the bottom.
Those jeans sold out though. I'll tell you that. But
no, they going crazy.
They gone.
Yeah, they going crazy.
Yeah.
You gotta get your grandma to make you want something back. So the jeans going crazy, and then I'm about to throw a little controversy now. Now, they saying that the man that he had all these symbols and signs, and he rocking out and doing all this, that, and third. I can't buy into that when you disrespect another black man at the same time. I can't buy into it. He should have saved that for when they hook up in private. I can't buy into that.
You don't think he should have done that? Are you kidding? He had to do it. He had to, but go ahead.
Okay, let me say this. First off, Coach, you called me during Kendrick's performance.
You
didn't say shit about those jeans until someone else pointed it out. Okay, because you was talking about how fire the was.
I never said that he had a nice outfit on.
Those jeans until it was pointed out to you, sir. Okay, what you said was he was going to get sued for the Drake performance.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's first thing. Okay, you didn't notice those jeans until it was pointed out to you.
I did. I just didn't tell
you. Hold on. And he had to do that song because he just won 5 Grammys. It's song record of the year. It's one of his biggest hits. And had it been Drake who was performing at the Super Bowl, he wouldn't have hesitated to do that song. Okay, he wouldn't have hesitated to do that song. And that's what hip hop is about. If you go back and look at the history of hip hop, that's what the battles were about. I mean, go back to LL, Cool Mo D. I mean, may the best man win. I mean, that's just what it is.
It was different then.
I mean, and this same black man, Drake, he's disrespected Serena in his songs. And he's for other black men in his songs.
I got something for her too.
What you gonna do is stay off Serena.
Hold on. And before you even go there about Serena, her crip walking at that performance, it was more than about Drake. It goes back to that tennis match where she was criticized by the public for crip walking after her win. And no, she's obviously not a crip. She was not promoting gang violence when she did that, but it's part of her culture.
Yeah.
She's from Compton.
Yeah.
But I do want to go back to my thoughts and opinions about Kendrick's performance. First off, a lot of women was liking the way he was looking in those jeans. Now, I didn't notice the jeans because I was just so enthused by the performance. Of course, I am, a Kendrick fan and have been for years. I had, quite a few takeaways, from the performance. First of all, Samuel Jackson, as Uncle Sam. I love Samuel L. Jackson. And of course, he's made references to Samuel's character in Django Unchained. So to have him as Uncle Sam in that performance, telling him, you're too loud, you're too ghetto. To me, that was just genius. To have him in that performance after making reference to him in his songs. And how many of us have been told, we're too loud, we're too ghetto, we're too black.
That's what it sums up. Yeah.
Yeah. And to do that on, a national platform, in front of one of the biggest audience that he's ever going to perform in front of, with the person who's occupying the White House right now, and to call for reparations, and to talk about 40 acres and a mule in front of the person who occupies the White House. So and that takes courage. And of course, that's not socially acceptable for an artist to do. So there are a lot of references in there. So it's more than about Drake. And I think he had to do that song for the commercial appeal. But it's more than about the music, like he said. And I love the Gil Scott-Heron reference, because, of course, he's from Jackson, Tennessee. So love that.
I appreciate that, Kae Maree. You made some good points. But I did notice the jeans. I just didn't want to be negative that night.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I got 20/20 vision. I can see them damn jeans.
When is your birthday? We getting you them jeans.
June 7th. June 7th. And I'm going to tell you who knows them first. I'm going to tell you who knows them first, actually, was my daughter. And this was way before college, but I didn't want to be negative that night. I wanted to be positive.
Okay. You sure? Because that was the same night that you started agreeing once that text went out.
I mean, the text go out, so I can agree. I ain't bring it up first to agree.
Hey, enough on the jeans. Keep moving.
I mean, Donald Trump an asshole. I can agree with it once it's said, but I know it's true.
Okay.
But Serena Williams, the only thing I got on her is I ain't like the crip walk with them size 14 shoes on.
You better get off her.
Exactly. Okay. And man, to be able to walk on a diss track for your ex who done disrespected you, she was crip walking like she was dancing on that Negro's grave.
Yeah.
I mean,
in a size 14.
Big ups.
Yeah, for sure. She one of them more. She gonna always go down, and I mean, it's Black History Month, so she's definitely gonna be a pioneer. She have went down to Black History Month. It is that. And do y'all notice, like, I know, like, when I was growing up, it was a big thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's posts was boom, 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 and it's like they done watered it down so much over the years. Mm-hmm. But I will say, I was watching a clip the other day, and it was this older guy, and I guess he was part of the people that was like doing the sit-ins at the diners and stuff like that. My man say, once they finally start serving them, boy say, is this what the hell I put my life on the line for? Food was terrible. Food was terrible.
Where was this at? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I had just watched the clip. I'd get it sent out to y'all if I could. Matter of fact, I'm gonna search for it today and get it sent out to y'all. Say the man, and he was an older guy. Like, he was young. They was doing the sit-ins, and like when they started serving him, they slammed their little plates down and all that type of stuff. And he made mention, like, we doing all this sitting in here and getting jumped on and all this, and the food ain't worth a damn. And so that was one of the big things, but I think
begging to sit at the table.
Yeah.
So that was pushed on us too, and we bought into that too, that we would be better integrated rather than standing alone. But so it's much bigger than that too. But yeah, I get the reference.
For sure.
I will say this: my mother was in high school during integration, and her grandfather, my great grandfather, was the principal of the Black schools during integration. And her experience was they were doing just fine before integration. Their books were just fine. They had excellent teachers. They did not want to be integrated. And things changed for the worse for them once they were integrated.
And that's the reason I I mentioned that because, of course, we have the luxury of reflecting back on it and
Right.
looking at it. But I'm and when that was a very, very keen observation, and I wonder if people were used without their knowledge that they were being used for something malicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like in hindsight, but what we say hindsight is 2020, right? It'll be over with and done before we even realize that we were used and we were nothing but pawns, right? But look at the state that we're in as a community now. You can't tell me that didn't have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Because we could have, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and Neka B's mother, she was in high school around that same time, and I'm sure, you know, she could talk to her and get some insight as well.
Yeah. Yeah, my father was in high school at the time. Or he might have been in like the 8th grade or whatever, but when they started having to mix up and ride the bus together and all that type of stuff, like it was chaotic. From what I heard, you know, it was very chaotic. It wasn't something like that. It wasn't like the black kids and black folks running around like, really, I want to go to school with you. I'm cool where I'm at for real. And you see it now. I know, especially like in Memphis, a lot of those schools that was that black people went away from and they had started joining and going to school with other people. A lot of them schools they closing down now. And you know, these are historic schools in Memphis, and they closing them down now and getting rid of them. So, I mean, I don't think I'm like you, Kae Maree. I don't think it was something that was wanted. I think it was definitely pushed on them. Going back to what you said, Neka B, a lot of those things were pushed on people. And in hindsight, now we're looking at it, and you know, that was used for other causes.
Right. And then it's the bandwagon approach. You know, it's no different than today. You know, somebody likes something, somebody say something, somebody drop, and then everybody want it now. All of a sudden, nobody knows nothing about it, but everybody think it's good. So it was no different. And I don't know if it was easier then than it is now, because I'm seeing some mind-blowing stuff, right? So we were definitely better off as a community in segregation. Because then I think it was Pops, I mean, several episodes ago, who mentioned, like, you know, we had our own carpenters, we had our own doctors, we had our own teachers, we had, you know, as a community. Now they are far and in between. You have to search for a good black doctor. You have to search, you know, so yeah.
You know what, another thing I would always ask my folks, I would say, how was it? Were you all afraid that people talk to you nasty? And they said they didn't even realize all that stuff was going on because they were so insulated by the community. Their whole community was them. So all of their protection, they were buffeted. They didn't feel any of that stuff. Because I was saying, well, what was it like when you couldn't drink out of the, you know, certain water fountains? They said, well, we just drank out of the ones we'd always been drinking out of. They didn't, it wasn't anything to them. They talked about, well, there's some stuff I can't say, but they didn't seem to be losing. Some of them situations, I'm like, man, yeah, they were always deep when they went to places that were like, they would go to the movies and they could only sit up in the balcony. And I said, well, did you all worry about walking home? And, you know, because people, they said we were deep. They didn't use that term, but there were so many dudes that were with them. They never worried about anything because the dudes were so deep. Their presence was so thick. They didn't worry about it. And if you think about dudes, I don't know, but maybe I romanticized the thought. But they say the dudes back then were different than the majority. Now, I don't know if the term, you know, that quote, protect black women, it was not even a thought because it was just what it was. You knew you were going to be protected if you had some brothers around you.
So I think definitely some of that's romanticized for sure. I wasn't there, you weren't there, so we can't, you know, we don't know firsthand knowledge, right?
Right.
I think there were probably instances of that for sure. But I can remember my maternal grandmother telling me a story about walking downtown in some shorts and being chastised and by a group of white people and stuff like that. Like, so I don't know that maybe it was equal on that. Maybe some groups felt protected, maybe some didn't. I think as a community as a whole, we were just better off as a people. That does not make us not prone to attack. I know you know that, right? But I'm just saying, like, I feel like even if you look at the instances where they attacked us on larger levels, you know, Tulsa, et cetera, like, they were threatened by our greatness. Yeah. They were threatened by that. So, yeah.
I was just agreeing. I just said, and they still are.
Yeah. How can you not be?
Yeah. But I also understand the mindset of if I've never been able to drink out of that water fountain, if I've never been able to go on that side of town, what am I missing? So I understand that mindset. And that was what kind of drove that, because you're saying, oh, the books are better, the teachers are better.
Folks would feel sorry for folks back in the day, 50, 60 years ago. Little kids growing up, they didn't have Xbox, they didn't have TV, they didn't have internet. But I would suggest if they could see into the future here, they'll feel sorry for us. Because if you look at children, I don't even see children outside playing kickball, baseball, every man for himself football. And there's so many things that as a consequence, you see an increased obesity rate. You see 12-year-olds on high blood pressure and blood sugar medicines, but and anxiety, depression, because folks think when you constantly scroll on TikTok, Snap, Instagram, that your brain is trying to hold all of that. And you get caught in the wrong algorithm and it can program you.
Yeah.
And then you wonder what's going on with the people. Well, if you sit in front of a screen daily, as opposed to getting out, getting some sunlight, most folks are deficient of vitamin D and a myriad of other things for other reasons. But I bet they would probably feel so sorry for us because you might have 500 or 600 friends on Facebook and some people lonely as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And y'all bring up some great points. I like that. So moving forward, I know we discussed last time that we was I know somebody said get a young lady 2 weeks. Fine. 2 weeks is come and gone. I want to say the lady will remain nameless. I can't let her back on the block. So she gonna have to get re-kicked off. And I'm gonna tell you who it is. The same lady ordered the damn Uber.
Lyft. Well, go ahead.
Lyft. I'm sorry, Lyft. Man, let me tell you something. So I'm just gonna say she done walked her ass into the station or the Breakfast Club. They got the scene set up and everything ready to get started. First thing you got another seat in here. This is the only seat y'all got. These folks went and got a whole love seat for this lady to sit in by her lonesome. Whole love seat. Then they sit it down. She gonna sit on that. She gonna scoot on down in it. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about right here.
Accommodations, as she said, accommodations.
I'm not accommodating nothing. Stand up.
Stop it.
Stand up. Yeah, I'm letting you know now. You come on the block, we ain't got no chairs for you. We ain't got no chairs for you. Come on the block, man. I'm done with the lady.
Her professional rap name is Dank, by the way. I learned that since then.
What?
Dank. D-A-N-K. Dank.
And you look like you stink. You look like you stink. We're gonna keep right there, man.
She did say she's dealt with weight issues all her life, and she's never been like her siblings were skinny and stuff like that. And she was always, bigger. She is. I think they said she has lost 80 pounds though, so I will commend that because that's not easy to do for anybody. So big ups for that. But yeah, the whole premise of her ordering the lift and it causing this rift is ridiculous. I'll agree to that.
Yeah. I mean, and you sitting in love seats.
Yeah.
Now what if they didn't have
she did say, I think they did say confirm. I think that the vehicle was a Prius, and she said, "Oh, my friend has a Prius. I get in it all the time."
No,
but this is the thing: your friend may not mind the damage and the wear and tear they would do on the car, but I don't know you. You know what I'm saying? This is my livelihood I'm using. So yeah.
Man, let me tell you something. If I come pick up my partner and I look out the window, bro, I'll get up with you another time. I gotta come in. You're not getting in here. I have a sports. I have a sports vehicle, man. It's a small back seat. It's really a two-door car. You ain't getting in my car, bro.
Right.
You ain't squeezing your ass up in here. Nah.
Yeah.
It's not happening. And she loves. Nah. You come on the block, we ain't got no seats but the ones we sit in.
Bring your own seat, like BYOS. Bring your own seat. That's what we do.
Nah, for sure.
Yeah. For
sure. But hey, I'm excited about today. I know we got a special thing for the blockers today, and I think we're gonna have fun with some of this stuff we're talking about today. It's gonna really be amazing. And I want to say I see everybody got their black and white on today. I see it. Everybody understood the assignment.
No memo was sent out.
Pops got his Nino Brown. Pops got his Nino Brown. Look like about to tell somebody to sit there, file our ass down if we make change. And Neka B got a black and white exact change. And we got the soul sisters over there with the old Rosa Parks coming in hard. I like that.
Right.
Can
I say something real quick? Can I circle back around to something on the Kendrick Lamar? Because I feel like let me say this if I can.
Yeah.
Y'all know, it's neither here nor there with me as far as Kendrick, but I do recognize the significance of his performance at the Super Bowl. I know going into it, there was some debate about, whether they should have gave Lil Wayne, the platform, whatever. So I will say what we're used to in this country when it comes to, Super Bowl and stuff like that is mindless entertainment. So if that's what we've been talking about, program to over the years, right? Then that's why a lot of people didn't get it at first. Yes, I did see some symbolism. I'm still gonna make jokes on the jeans because to me they wasn't appealing, whatever. But beyond that, it's true. But I did see, using Samuel Jackson, like to me that was genius, and I don't use that word lightly. Genius, brilliant. I don't throw it around hardly ever. So to me that was and Kae Maree was right. It's much bigger than Drake. It is
for sure.
He used that platform that night to speak about community. And so I don't know how many people would have been brave enough to do that. Striking while the iron is hot. He'll never be able to be on that stage again. So you'll never be able to be on this earth again. It's what you do with your time now that is going to leave that. And so for that alone, he's earned my respect. Love that. For that alone. So I just wanted to add that for sure.
Agreeing with you, Neka B, I definitely appreciated his performance. I really did. I appreciated that. And I enjoyed it from an entertainment standpoint. And like you said, like using his voice, what I'm saying, on that big stage, on that platform. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need that. We need more of that. And I think honestly, if Lil Wayne had not gone on his tirade, for the lack of a better word, he probably would have been recognized like some of the other New Orleans artists at the Super Bowl. I believe the bands played music, performed music by some of the other New Orleans artists. I believe he would have been recognized, but he was not the artist that we needed for that performance.
Yeah, like Neka B said, in the past is what it's been. So I guess that's what people was used to, and that's why I think people agreed to it. But in the past, it's never been because we in this certain town, we got to get somebody from this town or this state to perform. It could be anywhere, and they bring it in the battle. But we'll say the next day after Kendrick, they did announce it's gonna be a white man on that Super Bowl stage. They did say Post Malone or whoever, Post Malone, he gonna have a Super Bowl next year. White man.
Well, and I will let me add this before we end the Kendrick thing. I noticed that a lot of people were complaining about the lack of diversity in Kendrick's performance. All Black dancers, all Black performers. Very ironic that a lot of these people who are complaining are the same people who support the termination of DEI.
Michael, no, okay, I like that. Yeah, that was just but yeah, I didn't like those jeans though.
What size are you though? Just
hey, I would tell you, I saw a little chubby kid the other day, and it was funny to me. 'Cause I remember we used to make fun of kids in school. The boys, they used to, especially if you was one of the husky kids, your pants size was like a 16 husky. I said, boy,
I used to wear huskies.
What you know about them huskies?
When you're short and scrap,
you had a different little section.
Yeah, because you had a 16 regular, right? You had a 16 regular, And then it was another size need when you got them Huskies. And you know, those big at the stores, your grandma. I remember seeing kids at the store in the Husky section. Grandma pulling your pants up on your ass, trying to see if things fit you good. Got them all around your belly button and carrying on.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Pull your pants up on your ass now. Let me see if you fit you. Let me fish now.
Very true. Every store didn't carry Huskies either.
No,
so, you know.
no, dude, you ain't gonna be this a bit now.
Right. That's funny.
And they had a Husky section, I believe.
Yep.
It was a Husky. And if you over there, you embarrassed and shit before looking over.
You go, your cousins go this side. You go.
Oh shit. Oh Lord.
One of the things that we promised you all last year is that we were going to speak to voices in the community. It's very important for us to speak to people who are actually out there doing the work. So today we bring to you Mr. Jeffrey Summers. For 13 years, he's been the founder and director of Jeffrey's House in Massachusetts, which is a nonprofit organization that services recovery victims for drug and alcohol addiction. Jeffrey wears many hats. He is a business owner, entrepreneur. He is a licensed real estate broker, a social worker, notary public, and construction supervisor. That's the professional side. On the personal side, Jeffrey is a father. He is a husband. He's a new grandfather. Congratulations. He is my uncle and Kae Maree's cousin. He loves history, politics, and never backs down from a good debate. So we welcome you. You come to the right place.
Thank you. I really appreciate that introduction. That is very overwhelming and humbling. So thank you so much. I have been in business for 13 years doing this, as you said, and I do wear many hats. On the political side, since we are in a political climate, I will start off by saying I am a proud Democrat. I have never missed an election since I first registered to vote at 18. When I first had children, I brought them into the voting booth with me when they couldn't even walk, just to let them know that it was a normal thing for Black people, especially Black men, to vote. One of my biggest criticism of us as Black people is that we are not a consistent voting bloc as I think we should be. When I was 18 years old, one of the first books I read was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I remember in that book, Malcolm X saying how important it was for us to vote. Now, Malcolm X also said in that book that we should not pledge allegiance to either party. And he said we should stay independent. And so I did do that. In Massachusetts, they call independents unenrolled, but it would be disingenuous of me to say I'm an independent, which my voting card and record would say. But if every year since my first election in 1992 was my first election, I voted Democrat. I know every president that I voted for, and I know why. And I am so surprised, especially in this latest climate, when I hear Black people, especially Black men, telling me that they voted Republican. For the reasons I said earlier, but I will say every consequential legislation that we have in this country, especially middle class and Black people, has come from Democratic presidents, and Democrats have passed it. From the historic 1964 Civil Rights Act to the 65 Voting Rights Act to Obamacare to women's suffrage, women's right to vote, to Social Security and unions and Medicare and Medicaid and welfare and Section 8, and the list can go on and on. And I always challenge people when I'm having these type of discussions to name consequential legislation that was passed by a Republican president. I'll pause there.
Yeah. So my question to all of you is, why do you all think there's been an increase in Black Republicans over the last few years? And I want to start with you, Neka B.
I can tell you what I hear. I can't necessarily say that I agree or align with it, but one of the things I hear is about family values. That's neither here nor there. We can dive deeper if we need to. That for whatever reason they feel like that the Republican Party is more aligned with family values. Another reason that I've heard is that Democrats have become too inclusive when we talk about whether it's, for the most part, when I say that, I'm alluding to the fact of gay rights. And so those are the two main reasons that I've heard, primarily from Black men that I've had dialogue with on a personal level. Again, not saying that I'm necessarily aligned with those views, but those are the reasons that they've given.
Sort of like Neka B. I've heard things, and I speak to primarily guys, and I happen to know a lot more Black men, so that's who I hear from, and most of them are saying that it's related to things like family. But most of them that I talk to say that they don't want to wear any label, Republican or Democrat, because both of them are wrought with corruption and filth. That's the nature of politics. So people normally support policies that support them. Family, things that make sense to make people just better people. Men, hard work, structure, rules. You just want to make sure that the next generation will have things better than what we're in. So that's what I'm hearing. And was there a big increase? You said it's a big increase. The numbers, I was going to say the numbers look like it's about the status quo, and it might be just a little uptick with more Black men voting, quote, Republican, but I'm not sure they voted Republican or just voted a person that had the Republican label, because there's a lot of Republicans that catch heat, from the people that voted for the top of the ticket.
So I will say that, just to give you a statistic real quick, in 2016, Trump had 8% of the Black vote in general. So I didn't go dissect male or female, 8% in general. And then it jumped to 20% in this most recent election. So that almost tripled. To me, that's a significant jump. Right. And so what, to me,
that's a very significant increase. That's very significant.
With the inclusiveness. A lot of people associate that with the Democratic Party and don't agree with gay rights. And personally, I have an issue with that. I think people should be able to love and marry who they want to love. And I don't think it's anyone's business. But I do think in the Black community, we have a lot of homophobia, and that and people take that into the voting booth with them. I'll let you go ahead, Mr. Summers.
Well, a couple things. First of all, like I said, I vote every election, and I've always voted for the Democrat. So I would be disingenuous to not call myself a Democrat. But in this climate and culture, it seems that people want to blame Black people for the election of Trump, but it is on the shoulders of white people, squarely, because we could go back every election. In 2000, for example, with the Florida hanging chads and all that, when Al Gore lost, Black men voted for Al Gore at an 88% clip. They voted for Bill Clinton at 88%. we went up a little on President Obama, probably to 92, and then we went down back to 88 for Biden, and we supported Kamala Harris right at that number. So it's not on us. It is on them. It is pretty much white women. We knew what white men were going to do, but what surprised the electorate was where white women went overwhelmingly for Trump. We thought because of the abortion issue that white women would be with the Democrats, and that just didn't happen. So I think this is on white women. One thing I would like to address that Pops stated was that I think Pops said that people typically vote for what policies affect them. I would just tend to disagree with that, because if we look at poor whites who are right now and have been the heart of the Republican Party, especially in red states where you are, if we look at pretty much all of the states that seceded from the Union, going back to 1865, for a 100-year period, those same poor white states, since 1965, like from 1865 to 1965, they were Democrat, but when the two parties switched, starting in 1965, after the passage of the Civil Rights Bill, that's when the two parties switched. So for the last 60 years, poor whites have voted Republican, and it has not been in their best interest, but they continue to do it.
Why do you think that is?
There can only be one answer, and it's because of racism. They think they were sold a bill of goods that told them that Black people are flooding their schools, stealing their women, making their properties values go down, moving into their neighborhoods, and they think that the Democratic Party is the Black Party, so they're just going against their best interests, their own self-interest.
Have anything to add to it? I hadn't spoken to many people, especially any folks that would consider themselves poor whites, nor have I looked at research concerning people that are categorized as poor whites. Sounds like he's done some extensive research in that area. And see, I was going based off of just who I'm talking to and the folks that are in my little hemisphere. So I hadn't done that type of research. And so the folks I talk to are primarily Black men with families, and actually hardworking brothers. So
do you agree, Pops, though, that do you think that poor whites do vote against their interests, just opinion without doing research? Do you think that that's a possibility or no?
Well, I think that voters in general, the majority of voters are just sort of rootless, meaning that the majority of voters don't do much self-reflection. I think they do just vote for who they like as a candidate. So I think that it's so superficial that, let's say, for instance, I remember back when I voted for President Obama, I liked him. I saw he had a good smile. He walked with a little stride. He was going to be the first person that looked similar to me. I didn't do a lot of extensive research, and I didn't even think about my best interest. I just liked him. So I would imagine that a lot of people do that as well. If you like a person, you typically vote for someone that you like.
Yeah.
And there's a segment of people that do research. I mean, they go down the list. They look at if he's been a state senator, if he's been a senator, they do research on how this person is voted. Most people don't.
Most
people
are uninformed voters, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't until very recently. So I would just imagine that a lot of these folks that are categorized as poor white folks, they would probably just vote for who they like. And just like, most things are tribal. People talk about racism, but a lot of it is tribalism. You vote for somebody that reminds you more of you. Like a lot of black women voted for Miss Harris because she looked like them, so they could relate to her. So if the majority of the country is white, they're probably gonna be voting for someone they feel they can relate to. But there's other categories that look at stuff like international things like war. Who's gonna be more apt to get us into a major war? Who's gonna be more apt to keeping funds that are for American citizens with Americans? So some people look at it that deep, but most folks just vote for who they like.
I do believe that there is a group of black men who vote for Donald Trump, not because they've done their research, but because they can relate to him in other ways. And that is the narcissism. They want to be like Donald Trump. They want to be, they want to have that power. They want to have that control. But the thing is, you will never be an old, rich white man. If you're blessed enough, you'll be old, but more than likely, if you're not already,
that's it. Oh, that's it.
you're never gonna be white. So a lot of them, they idolize Donald Trump, and that's why they vote for him.
Coach, let's get in here, Coach.
Well, I mean, for me, Pop said it. I'm one of those people. I don't have a tag on it. I'm neither one. I'm neither one of them. And personally, I don't be in situations or circles where I even really talk about politics, nothing like that.
And I will say, he is signing a lot of executive orders. What was in the last podcast? Broke his shoulder or something, signed executive orders. You might want to, you work for the school system, you work for the public school system, you're working with at-risk youth. So you might want to get up on that because at some point it's going to affect you and the kids you serve.
What I'm gonna do about it?
You need to be concerned. I don't know what you're going to do about it, but
I'm gonna say this.
At the least, you can be looking for some community resources to help those kids you serve when he takes away the funding.
Got you. I mean, hey, I feel you.
So, Kay, you mentioned executive orders, and Donald Trump's been doing a lot of those while in office right now, his first week. But, executive orders they're not even laws. Like, to pass a law, it has to go through, both houses, Congress, and the Senate to get passed. And so executive orders are just things that are passed on the federal level, and they leave with that president. So they could sign executive orders, but then when that president leaves, that executive order leaves. And so that brings me to another point, that when I said, what has the Republican Party done? And more specifically, what have they ever done for Black people? Some people would say that Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Most people don't know, and we hear a lot about executive orders now, the Emancipation Proclamation was an executive order. And so that's why we then moved to Juneteenth, because for a year and a half, 2 years, the slaves didn't even know that they were free from that executive order. And it really meant nothing. And Republican President Lincoln, he did that executive order because the Union wanted to take away the South's ability to use the slaves as fighters. And so the executive order of the Emancipation Proclamation wasn't because Lincoln was this great man and wanted to free Black people. It was a tool of war in order to not let the slaves fight for the South.
Yeah, so he gets no respect either.
No. But again, I'm just surprised. I would go as far, and I'll say it in a nice way, anyone Black that's voting Republican is ignorant, and they just don't know the facts, because they can't say anything that the Republican Party has done for them or their personal self-interest. Like, knock on wood, I'm doing pretty okay right now with business and financially, and some of the policies that the Republicans and Donald Trump have signed into law have benefited me. Like I last sold and bought a house in 2000, and when I was doing my taxes that year, I found out that I didn't owe as much in capital gains as I thought I did and had put aside for. And my accountant informed me that it was because of the tax cut that Donald Trump signed in 2018. And like, yeah, okay, that's good. I'll take this personal money, or I won't have to pay that out. But I'm more concerned about us as Black people collectively than me as an individual.
And that's what I wish more of us would think like. It's like many of the Black people, well, and this is my personal opinion, the Black people who do support Trump, they are thinking about their own personal interest, and the rest of us are sacrificial lambs.
Correct. Yes, I agree. And so when I hear people, and I have a lot of white friends, some of my best friends are white, right? But when I talk to people and they say, well, I just like Trump's economic policies. Well, I'm talking to school teachers and firefighters and police officers. His economic policies don't help you. If you're making 100 or even 200,000 or less, the policies that he's signing into law don't help you, and you've been fooled into thinking you're going along with him for your own financial stability, because they're not helping you.
That is kind of talking about another reason that I've heard again, men, but specifically Black men, say is they're not ready for a female president. Do you think there's any truth to that at all?
I personally do not, because with misogyny, I would think that only Western countries probably are not misogynistic. Like if we look at all of Africa, all of the Caribbean, we know that women are second-class citizens there. In this country, especially in the Black household, women usually control the finances, control the house, and maybe some Black men are chauvinistic, but I just don't think that it rises to that level that we're like, well, I can't vote for a woman, so I'd rather vote for this racist white man. That's crazy to me.
Well, I mean, it came up with Hillary too, and I heard. I mean, I'm just saying again, I haven't done a national survey by far, right? But I'm just telling you things that I heard, and surprisingly among Black men, that they would not vote for a female president. So
yeah, I've heard a couple say that.
I have heard that too, but I think with Hillary, it was almost like the perfect storm in which she lost. She did everything wrong, but Kamala did not do everything wrong. Kamala, I really believe Kamala did everything correct. I don't think she could have done anything else.
Biden should have sat down earlier.
Yes, I can agree with that. Yes, but she didn't. She did everything, in my opinion, in her power. I can't, in retrospect, look back and say what she did wrong. When we look at Michigan, and we had, because we now have people saying she should not have tapped Tim Walz to be her vice president, and she should have got Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. But at the time, Shapiro, who is Jewish, we had the whole thing going on in Michigan where a bunch of Muslim supporters of the Democratic Party came out and said they would not vote for him. And so that would have been antagonistic at that time to take on a Jewish vice president, in which we're losing support in Michigan and Pennsylvania. So we couldn't have done that. So I don't think she did that wrong either. I think she did everything right. She just ran into when they did the postmortem on this election, 73% of the electorate was white. Like, so even if we're becoming browner as a country, we're not becoming browner as people that are enrolled to election, that are ready to vote.
All right, I think we'll move right along to the executive orders. Pops, if you want to introduce that, unless you have something else to add, for sure.
Not on that, but it did make me think about something when Jeffrey had mentioned about anyone that voted quote Republican is ignorant. I've heard many that kind of made some of those same remarks about people that vote Democrat, because they just couldn't see why a person would continue to vote Democrat when things just continue to be terrible. If you look at all the statistical categories where it's the worst to be at the top of it, Black people are there. But Black people have been supporting Democrats for the past 40 years solid. All the list that it's the worst to be at the bottom of that list, Black folks are there. But the political, you go on.
No,
jump on
I would totally agree with that. But if we say, if we look at the legislation that Democrats have signed, so we are only able to vote because Democrats made it possible for us to vote. We are only able to live in the houses in the neighborhoods that we choose, or go to the schools or the colleges, because Democrats. Like, so I would challenge anyone who said that. And Pops, I have heard this same thing. I know, Candace Owens is famous for saying, the Democratic plantation. And, I know when they say Democratic mayors, well, if you look at, a governor has more power than a mayor, and they say, oh, look at the Democratic cities. Well, look at the Republican cities. Like when you look at, all of the 15 poorest states in the United States are all in the South. They're all the states, part of the states that seceded from the Union. The only states that are not among the 15 that seceded from the Union, I think, are Florida and Texas. All the rest, Mississippi, poorest in the country, Louisiana, maybe second, Arkansas, Kentucky, maybe Tennessee's in that list. Like, so all of these states are poor, and they are red states. And so the people that are saying this to you, that, why are they voting Democrat? You should answer them because of the 64 Civil Rights Act and the 65 Civil Voting Rights Acts and Obamacare and unions and the free voucher programs for schools and welfare, Section 8, all of these things that were provided to us by the Democratic Party. I challenge you, maybe, you said you haven't done your research, and I respect that, but maybe after, go do some, and next time tell your listeners something that the Republican Party has done for middle-class whites or poor and white and Black. What has the Republican Party done? What legislation? That's why I personally continue to vote Democrat.
Right. And I'll go back and say the two-party system, crap. Most of them in there are corrupt. But I will say this on those, getting to some of the things that are coming down the pipe, some of the audits that are going on, and I know Neka B, you're probably going to be getting to Elon Musk later, but Doge, I think an audit on its face, when it's done objectively and it's rooting out waste, fraud, and corruption, and listen to those three terms. If the audit is rooting out corruption, waste, fraud, it's a good thing, because
It's a big
then the
if.
money. That's why that's the
Yeah,
exact
it's a
reason I wanted to
big
be
if.
very precise
Yeah, that's a
with
big
my
if.
words.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So if that is done in that way, I think it's a good thing. And if people sometimes would just, because the way this thing is set up, like Democrats quote Republicans, it's set up like you're going for the Dallas Cowboys and the Redskins. If my team holding it, first of all, if it's something that's done and it's righteous, decent, and in order, I don't care if you call yourself a blue or red man, Democrat or Republican. If it's something that's beneficial, get with it. Don't, if this person does something, he's a so-called Democrat, and he does something that's good, hey, it's good. If the man that's doing something and he calls himself a Republican, if it's good, say it's good. I just want us as a community to be better. We're about to get to a point in this society where there are going to be fewer. There are so many more behind us that have gone, that are coming to replace us. Once upon a time, grandmothers could stay at their home and be taken care of by their big families. I think that's gone by the wayside. And folks are not looking at, even in nursing homes, if you're fortunate enough to have the money to go into a long-term facility, there are not a lot of staff that are replenishing the staff that are leaving. So if you are in the hospital today and sometimes you can't go to a bed at a nursing home because they don't have the capacity to take you, to receive you. So I would say, instead of focusing on Democrat and Republican, think about what's better for a group versus what's not good for a group. I don't care who comes up with the bright idea or the good things, Republicans or Democrats or independents. Let's just be better. If we're paying taxes and our tax dollars, like the Department of Defense, can't account for billions, where are the billions? Because there are a lot of people and nonprofits, that money could be redirected, reallocated to people like Jeffrey, your program. It could be reallocated to some of those programs to help people that need it. But if there's some fat cat sitting somewhere with offshore bank accounts that they don't want to know what's going on with this money, we need to bring a stop to it. So whether it's
Do you think the
Republican,
people in place now, like, it's laughable to me that Elon Musk would be the head of that? Like his, so just question to the panel: do we think the people that are in place doing that are really going to do that, and not serve their own interests? Like, you would have to be in a world of delusion, I feel like, if you buying that. Like, I can't see that. His main interest is himself. He's a billionaire. If he wanted to help people, and I'm not saying he don't give a charity, I'm sure he got tax write-offs. That's not that. I'm sure he would. But to believe that the people being in place this is like me auditing myself. Like
you answered your own question when you said, why would he help? It's because he's out. His money fluctuates between like 380 billion to 480 billion. So he doesn't even have to be doing it. I mean, this dude could be doing many
Pops,
other things.
So Pops, you think he's doing it just because he's a good man?
I would imagine, if I was gonna put it one versus the other, just off my assumption, Jeffrey, I would say I think that he's doing it because he's good at rooting out waste, like he did with Twitter. He went in there and he chopped it, and people, you can have your opinions on how he did it, but he's just there to save money and root out waste. Everybody can debate, and I'm not going to get into a big long debate about it, but anyone can debate about if he's a good person or a bad person. But if the point is to root out waste, I think that he might be doing that because he's proven that he can do that and that he can be successful.
So
because
Pops,
what has been done,
he just fired 3 of the people that were auditing him and his companies. Did you hear that?
You said him and his companies?
So he has a lot of companies and he has a lot of business that is before the Department of Commerce, Department of Justice, and other stuff, transportation. So he just fired the people that are going to be auditing him. Obviously, at worst, that's a conflict of interest. So you're saying that he's just doing this, kind of like people have said about Trump. Oh, he didn't even take the $400,000 salary. He gave it back. Well, yeah, he gave back. This is Trump. He gave back the $400,000 salary his first term in office, but he ended up making $400 million. and his daughter Ivanka, who he, cleared the way for that she could do business in China. No one else is doing business in China. They just, Ivanka's products are so good that they only wanted her. I mean, you have to
go back and forth. We could go back and forth about corrupt politicians doing things that, look at all the Congress people that just know how to make the right stock move right before a stock breaks a certain way. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying these people are good moral people, but what I'm saying is, if that's why I qualified it, if we want to, let's just admit, is there a lot of waste in this government?
Definitely.
Okay. Hold on, Kae Maree. Now, I think it was Rumsfeld back in the day that he said an absurd amount of money was it was near $1 trillion that was unaccounted for. We should want to know about that when they're saying that they don't have enough money to put in some of these necessary programs. But we should want to know what's up with this unaccounted almost $1 trillion. And so I'm not saying that we should not scrutinize the people that are doing the audits. Scrutinize them. But if they're doing something right, let them continue. You scrutinize it. Let them be transparent. That's what this thing is all about. It's a republic. You have an opinion. You have a right to say whatever you want. Matter of fact, if you don't like them, vote them out. That's the good thing about this. 4 years, you can vote this ticket out. In 2 years, you can vote in some new congressmen and senators, every 6. So whatever this country, that's the great thing about it. You have the power to vote. I would say it's better to kind of be informed, because my major concern recently was keeping us out of a nuclear war. And a lot of folks was pushing that to the back burner.
I do as well. That doesn't scare me. It never
right. So if we're on a ship, I would say that I want this big ship to float. I'm not going to be in the hull of the ship busting holes in the bottom. I first of all want us to be safe, and then we can work our way backwards. But I want us to be better as a people. I want better young men. I want better young women. I want better children. I want a better environment. I think people can be healthier. There's a reason why there are certain things sold in the United States that they don't sell in the UK. There are certain ingredients that we consume and that's likely causing us to be sick that they don't have in other countries. Why is that? I want to know.
Yeah. So, as far as going back to the Democrats and Republicans for a second, I think that the Republicans are more organized in their message. And I think that they are, kind of meaner and nastier. I think the Republicans do nasty better. And if we look at, 4 Republicans.
Do you watch The View?
I do.
Do they seem nice to you?
They're not elected officials.
No, I'm just saying. When you said you think they do nasty, I'm saying I owe Congressman Schiff. I see mean. A lot of people I see them being. I think it depends on whose side you're on, if it looks mean or not.
No, I don't think so. Like, I could name, just off the top of my head, 4 or 5 Republican senators that are currently in office. Marco Rubio actually just got moved to Secretary of State. But Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Joni Ernst, Rand Paul, they all came to office as Tea Party senators. Remember, we want our country back. And they came in office when Obama, who you said you used to like but didn't, I think you said, but they came in office when he did. And what they were saying is, we want our country back. What they didn't say is, we want our country back from this, what. All right, that was the message that they didn't say, because guess what? They're no longer Tea Party senators. They're just Republicans. They got in on, we're taking our country back from Obama because he's so bad. I don't know what he did so bad, but now they're just mainstream, regular senators. Very
That's like the squad. Remember the squad on the Democratic side, AOC?
They didn't get elected. I like them. I think they do a very good job.
What about the congressman from New York that was just ousted because he spoke up?
Republican George Santos, you mean?
No, the Democratic. I think he was a former educator, Jamal.
I don't know him.
He look him up. His name is, I think, Jamal Bowman, And the reason that he was voted up out of there, he was a Democrat, an extremely progressive Democrat. But when he spoke out of turn on Israel, he's gone. So what I'm saying
I do
is,
remember him. Yeah, they voted him out.
That's what I'm talking about. So there was up in New York. Look at Adams when he broke ranks.
What didn't you like about Bowman?
It was not me liking or not liking. What I was bringing him up for was because whatever you are, if you break against the party line, you're gone. So it's like
he said something bad about Israel. So
this is what I would rather would happen, because there was a very good Congress lady. She was, when I tell you she's not only just a magnificent person. She happened to be called a Democrat, but they voted her out. I wish I could think of her name. Matter of fact, one day they wouldn't even let her in because she didn't have her little congressperson pin on, and Capitol Police escorted her out. But she's like what I would say the template for the type of people that I want to see in Congress, because she's doing what's right. Whether it falls out of the line with the Democrats or Republicans, she's gonna do what is right. But people like that don't seem to last long. And if they last long, they're recalibrated by the powers that be. Because what you're gonna find out with what's going on with these new cabinet picks, like intelligence, there are a lot of people that I think are good people and want to do something right. But if we understood the type of pressure that can be applied to people that want to do good things, because of some of the intelligence groups, they don't get to do what they want, or they might be outed for this or that, especially if they've been doing some bad things on taxes.
But Pops, you sound to me like I've never met you, and you sound like a very intelligent and very nice young man, well informed, but you sound like you're a Republican but don't want to come all the way out.
Hey, you know what? Somebody calling me a Republican is a fighting word, because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. That's what I want to break up. I think I don't even like the two-party system. I just
want
people
to be. What are your politics then? What are your politics? Do you believe in healthcare?
I believe that's a loaded question. Listen to this. I want us to be
civil rights?
healthier.
Do you believe in gay rights? Do you what do you believe in?
One at a time. Slow down. Okay. So you said, do I believe in healthcare?
Yes.
I want us to be healthier. This westernized healthcare, let's talk about it. I don't think this healthcare system makes us healthier, because there's too much corruption. Let
me read. I said my question wrong then. Do you believe that healthcare is a right that every American citizen is entitled to?
I think that in a country, as long as we have the solvency, as long as we can afford it, every citizen of this country, if they need help, I think they should be able to get it. But that's, again, going back to the waste, fraud, and abuse. If they keep having unaccounted billions, and everybody keeps saying America is the richest country in the world, I'm like, when you look at the deficit,
I guess you keep kind of, like Lucy did with Charlie Brown, you keep moving the goalpost. So
all the time.
So then Barack Obama was the first American politician, first president to put universal health care into law.
Well, back then I was.
So do you think that was a good thing or a bad thing?
Back then,
so today, do you think that was a good thing or bad thing?
Back then, like I was saying, back then I wanted it to be like a system maybe set up over in Norway, where I thought that he caved to Big Pharma. I wanted it to be universal health care, period. At that point, that's just across the board, universal health care. The marketplace, I've seen too many people have too many complications with it. This is what I would like, but first of all, the money has to be spent right, so it will be enough money for every citizen to have health care. And then I would like to say, we need to figure out, why are we so unhealthy? Why are there some things that were going on 50 years ago? Things have tripled. 12-year-olds on high blood pressure medicine and blood sugar medicines. Why is anxiety and depression skyrocketing? Because with all of these things happening, there's not going to be enough money in the world to care for all of these people. Now there are so many people that are on disability and those entitlement programs. There's too much
mainly
money
white,
out.
yes.
Huh?
Mainly white people.
No, that's right. It's a
I
lot
have a
more
lot of them at my program.
Right. So there are a lot more of them here. They're suffering. I know black folks that are there's a lot of suffering. But what I'm saying is, with the program you with, there's just not enough resources to help the people. That's one of the worst things in a helping service provider is not to be able to help people when they need it badly. I don't care if you're white, black, or red. When we are in this helping profession and there's simply not enough resources, you have a will to do it because you're a social worker. So I know where your heart is. My heart is there too. So I want there to be enough funds to be put with these people that actually need it, because you and I both know there are some people on disability, and I'm trying to figure out why.
I agree with that.
People need.
So do you?
Yeah, but going back to just real quick, going back to the healthcare, like there are other countries that do it. So to say that, it's been such a challenge for us, no, it just wasn't a priority. United Kingdom, Japan, Italy, Norway, you mentioned there, Germany, Canada, they all do it. So why were we so behind? And then why was such opposition given when somebody finally tried to put it on the table?
Big Pharma got in there, and the lobbyists, they wrote the bill, Neka B. I was in support of what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted. But there's so much corruption here in this company. This country. Company. But the lobbyists ended up putting things in there that would benefit them, because, to be honest, it does not seem like this healthcare system they don't have a focus on getting us healthier. It's almost like let us live sick and just keep you barely making it with medication. But my thing is, if they would get to the root cause of a lot of the illnesses, the money could be spent better.
That has nothing to do. You're mixing politics. I mean, Big Pharma, because of their lobbyists, become part of politics, but they are two separate issues. Big Pharma does not want us to be healthy. But do you feel that every American is entitled to health care? That's what I'm asking.
You know what? Yes, I'm not. Look here, Jeffrey. I'm not going to get off of that because they're connected. The reason why we can't get to that because those corrupt corporations have too much of a hold on politicians. See, we got to address it. We got to address the corruption, because the corruption stopped those good people from getting it. So we're not going to get to that until we deal with this.
Pops, you said that, you said labeling you as a Democrat or a Republican is fighting words, right? And so my next question, viewers want to know, did you not vote in the last election? Or who did you vote for? Did you vote for Trump or did you vote for Kamala Harris? It's a simple question.
I know. Guess I'm gonna give you a simple answer. None of your business.
I think respectfully. I think respectfully, like I said, you're embarrassed that you're a Republican, and you shouldn't be.
See, but that's the thing. I'm going to be very clear. I don't think anyone should focus, and I think the label should be removed, because see, is Mitch McConnell a Republican?
Yes.
I think he's terrible.
Okay.
So it's
I mean, he only out anyway, so I don't know what relevant. But go ahead.
No. But what I'm saying is, Collins, there are a lot of folks that I think, as a matter of fact, I would think 80% on both sides need to go. What about what's the right thing to do? Forget about the parties, man.
Well, I think we have to work within the constraints.
Who are good people and who are the bad, and that's the thing. I'm out of that context. Y'all can stay in that paradigm if you want. That's what I'm saying. I'm not a Republican. There are some states where they make you try to get in one or the other. They don't want you to. And my thing is, when I go down the list, I look at what would be better for me. There was a time when I thought, like I said, Barack Obama. I supported him, voted for Barack Obama twice. But I'm telling you, back then, I was on the Dallas Cowboys, and I was just going for Democrats because I'm a Cowboys fan. Whatever they do, good. Since I've learned that it's not about Republican or Democrat, it's about what is best for my house, my family, my community.
But Pops, why is it our business that you voted for Barack Obama 12, 15 years ago, but it's now not our business that you voted for Donald Trump?
Because I had already said it, Jeffrey.
Okay.
I think
you kind of just. I think you kind of just.
You know what I would love, and you know what I would love, Jeffrey, especially since Kae Maree said you love the debate. I wish we could get together and talk. And you know, I'm talking about you and I, man to man, face to face, because I like to actually. I think it's more productive when we can actually sit down and talk, like in a setting off of here, because there's a lot of things that I don't even say on a platform like this, because some of it is beneficial, and maybe I don't have the wherewithal to do it like some, but
I understand.
I'd much rather, because I feel like you're a very good person, because of the social worker moniker for me is one thing, because I know you want to help people, and then the fact that you're a husband, you're a father, so and even a grandparent. So what I'm saying is, if you knew me, you would know why I don't call me a Republican. I was joking, like I said, it was fighting words. But,
I know you were joking.
Right. But it's like a Republican. I don't, because that's the thing, because sometimes you lump me. I'm like, don't lump me with them, but I also don't want you to lump me over here either, because I'm for good people. Kae Maree, you mentioned about LGBT. I don't have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with is when folks push things, just like when folks push things that are harmful, whether it's medical, whether it's social, whether it's economic. If you're pushing something and I feel like it's going to harm me somewhere upstream.
Pops, I don't believe that the breakup of the Black family happened organically. It happened politically. And
yeah,
I
we talked
agree.
about that. Yeah, we all
I agree.
I know.
I agree.
How and when. I mean, if we
you say you don't know how. You say you.
No, I
said
I do know how.
Okay,
I
good
do
deal.
know how and when. Like if we look right now today, statistically, 75% of all Black households are headed by a single Black female. That's a horrible number, but 75%. Now, it always wasn't like that. The Black family up until the 50s was together, maybe even the 60s, and then it was broken up. It was done, systemically on purpose. Before the Civil Rights Bill, if Black men already aren't working and can't find a job, and we're already as a Black family living in, ghettos and shanties, substandard housing, the devious white politician, they made this up. They came in because we have to understand that Section 8 and welfare and all that was created for the white woman. That was for white women when their husbands went off in the military. And Black women couldn't get that. So we're already in substandard housing. And then the white man comes to us and he says, and your husband already isn't working because of Jim Crow and other, racial politics. And the white man comes to us, to the Black woman, and says, hey, do you want Medicare and Medicaid? And we'll put you in an apartment and we'll give you all these benefits. And the Black woman's like, yes, great. Where do I sign up? And we can't blame her. And then he said, well, yes, but there's only one catch. He can't
be there. Yeah.
And that's how they broke this up.
Was that Lyndon Baines Johnson? With that kind of
happened before LBJ, because LBJ was in 65. That happened.
What do you think about LBJ?
I think LBJ is the best president for Black people in our lifetimes, ever. And
do you believe that rumor of what he said? It was never really documented, but someone said that and forgive me if I misquoted, but he said, I'm going to have these N-words voting Democrat for the next 100 years.
I heard, something like that, but it was, I know the quote that he's more famous for. You can take the dumbest white man and give him an enemy to follow, and you'll control him for the next 100 years. And that's what they did to poor whites. You know,
and I agree.
LBJ gave us everything. I don't think it can be argued that he's not the best president for Black people. He gave us the 64 Civil Rights Bill and the 65 Voting Rights Bill, the two most consequential bills in American history.
Like I said, Jeffrey, I would love to speak with you and pick your brain, because you sound like an extremely intelligent person, and I would love to sit down and talk with you. And I'll tell you, there are certain reasons why certain conversations can be counterproductive, and because sometimes in our community it's a sickness that we have. We prefer drama. We prefer.
Yes, I agree.
And so, as opposed to having a civil, because that's boring, man, switch it. But if you go to something and they scrapping and knocking over tables and chairs, then that's one of the highest rated programs.
Basketball Wives.
Exactly. And so, since it was so entertaining, the terrible part about that was that life started to imitate art. They might mistake me and think that I have nothing but love for Jeffrey, and we're gonna be strong like a fist. And I don't want them to see any degree of separation between Jeffrey and I, because that's the problem. If someone finds a little crack of daylight where they think they can separate us, me and this brother, see, I'll tell you, they can't do it.
I'm with that.
Now,
so
Jeffrey and I might.
No, I was going to say, going back to LBJ, like, racism is very nuanced. There are levels to it, unfortunately. So I just said he was the best president for Black people, and that, the two bills that he signed were the most consequential bills in American history, not Black history. So I believe that to my core. However, I also know that LBJ was a staunch racist. Kennedy tapped him from Texas. He's from Texas. He's from, deep red state. So going back to the 60s, a white man from Texas, he's a staunch segregationalist. So he was a racist, but he didn't do this because he loved Black people, just like Lincoln didn't do the Emancipation Proclamation because he loved Black people. Sometimes there are just consequences that happen, but LBJ was a staunch racist, but he was also the best president for Black people. Both things can be true.
I say, open the door and let me in. Teach a song, preach a sins, turn the cheek, let it slide. Give a vibe on the Black hand side, the Black hand side. That's it. Oh, Black hand side, Black hand side. Oh, the Black hand side.